when Jill came to get me, she said to me, "It's not easy being one rabbi in 4 places at the same time this morning," and it's certainly true. So down the hallway, it feels down the road. Down the hallway, our middle school kids are in something which we call the Bar Mitzvah program. And so what we do is many times during the year, we meet with them and their parents, and we talk about the Bar Mitzvah process. And today we're talking about Musaf. So in just a little bit, we are doing a panel about what we believe about prayer. And in a little bit, we're going to be joined by those Bar Mitzvah kids. And they're studying Musaf today, and so there's going to be a little bit of extra commentary, so I'm going to keep my sermon a little bit short. So many of you know that this week was Yom HaShoah. It was a day that the Jewish community observed the commemoration of the Shoah. Last night, we were blessed to have a reverend from a Methodist church come with his family for dinner, and he was very confused by the fact that we said it was Yom HaShoah, because in the international world, the non-Jewish world, there's a different date for Yom HaShoah, or for Holocaust Remembrance Day. But we had the opportunity, and I spoke about this last night, to think about and to listen to the testimonials and to read and reread the stories of survivors so that we could connect with and stay connected with the story of our people. And in many ways, it's a story, and I'm imagining that you are thinking about this too this week. It's a story that feels particularly eerie in this year and this moment of time. Because in some ways, I think what many of us believe to be true, although perhaps now that seems to be naivete, is that this was a thing of the past, that somehow we had evolved beyond such possibilities, and that hate and that systemic destruction of people could never happen again. And I think since October 8th, maybe October 7th, what we as Jews have come to understand is that this world has not evolved beyond such hatred. That in many ways, as Rafi says, we just lifted up the rug, and now things are revealed that we hadn't seen before. So I wanted to share with you, after listening to a lot of testimonials on Wednesday night and Thursday, there's a book that's called Hasidic Stories of the Shoah. And I wanted to share with you one story today, because it was a story that reminded me that as long as we have each other, we're going to be more okay. So the story is called Hovering Above the Pit. It was a dark, cold night in the Janowska road camp when suddenly a stentorian shout pierced the air. "You are all to evacuate the barracks immediately and report to the vacant lot. Anyone remaining inside will be shot on the spot." So pandemonium broke out in the barracks. People pushed their way to the doors, screaming the names of friends and relatives. It was a panic-stricken stampede, and the prisoners ran in the direction of the big open field. Exhausted and trying to catch their breath, they reached the field, and in the middle of the field were 2 huge pits. Suddenly, with their last drop of energy, the inmates realized where they were rushing on that cursed dark night in Janowska. Once more, the cold, healthy voice roared in the night. "Each of you dogs who values his miserable life and wants to cling to it must jump over one of the pits and land on the other side. Those who miss will get what they rightfully deserve. Rat-ta-ta-ta-ta." They were imitating the sound of a machine gun. The voice trailed off into the night, followed by a wild, coarse laughter. It was clear to the inmates that they would all end up in the pits. Even at the best of times, it would have been impossible to jump over them, all the more so on that cold, dark night in Janowska. The prisoners standing at the edge of the pits were skeletons. They were feverish from diseases and starvation. They were exhausted from slave labor and sleepless nights. Though the challenge that had been given to them was a matter of life and death, they knew that for the SS and for the Ukrainian guards, it was merely another devilish game. Among the thousands of Jews on that field in Janowska was the rabbi of Blazhav, Rabbi Israel Spira. And that rabbi was standing with a friend. He was a free thinker from a large Polish town who the rabbi had met in the camp. A deep friendship had developed between the two men. Spira, all of our efforts to jump over the pits are in vain, he said. We're only entertaining the Germans and their collaborator, the Ascaris. Let's sit down in the pits and let's wait for the bullets to end our wretched existence, said the friend to the rabbi. My friend, said the rabbi, as they were walking in the direction of the pits, man must obey the will of God. If it was decreed from heaven that pits be dug and we be commanded to jump, pits will be dug and jump we must. And if, God forbid, we fail and we fall into the pits, we will reach the world of truth a second later after our attempt. So my friend, we must jump. So the rabbi and his friends were nearing the edge of the pits, and the pits were rapidly filling up with bodies. The rabbis glanced down at his feet, the swollen feet of a 53-year-old Jew ridden with starvation and disease. And he looked at his young friend, just a skeleton now with burning eyes. As they reached the pit, the rabbi closed his eyes and he commanded in a powerful whisper, "We are jumping." And when they opened their eyes, they found themselves on the other side of the pit. Spira, we are here. We are here. Spira, we are alive. The friend repeated it over and over again while warm tears streamed from his eyes. Heaven tell me, Rebbe, he said, there must be a God in the heaven. For your sake, I am alive. Tell me, how did you do it? And the Rebbe responded, I was holding on to my ancestral merit. I was holding on to the coattails of my father and my grandfather and my great-grandfather of blessed memory. Said the rabbi, and his eyes searched the black skies above. Tell me, my friend, how did you reach the other side of the pit? Replied the rabbi's friend, I was holding on to you. This was based on a conversation of the Grand Rabbi of Blazhav, Rabbi Israel Spiro, with his friend Baruch Singer. It was shared in January 3rd, 1975. They both survived. There are so many stories to hear. Last night at Shabbat dinner, we were joined for dessert by a young woman in our community. Her name is Yahel. Her uncle, after 423 days, Eli Sharabi was released from Gaza. Another uncle remains in Gaza. Family members of hers were killed on October 7th. And in so many ways, the strength that we've seen since then is strength that reminds us that the Jewish people are so strong. Just 2 days ago, a group of survivors of the Shoah and a group of survivors of October 7th joined together, and they went to Poland, and they participated in a special program called March of the Living. Agam Berger, one of the survivors of October 7th, one of the survivors of the hell of Gaza, brought her violin, and she played in the camps together with the survivors of the Shoah, the survivors of October 7th, found their strength, and together they were both committed and defiant. They were committed to telling their stories, to listening to other stories, and to being a part of the future of the Jewish people. And they were there to show their defiance, that no matter who was out to rid the world of the Jewish people, whether that was Hitler in his day or that was Hamas in ours, that the Jewish people are stronger than we think, we are more courageous than we think, we are more capable than we think. And it's when we hold hands and we rely on our ancient traditions and the strength of our ancestors, as well as the strength of each other, that we can, and we will endure anything. And so I want to say to you on this Shabbat following Yom HaShoah, that not only do we need to know our ancestors' stories, but we need to find inspiration in their strength. We have 3 battles going on 3 different battlefields right now. We have the battlefield of the Middle East and of Israel. We have the battlefields of campuses and cities, and we have the battlefields of social media and the internet. These are all big battles that we need to fight. But what I do know, based upon our stories and the testimony of those who have done hard things and emerged from them, is that we can do hard things. And we can do them because we have each other and because we know our why. Our why is the Jewish people. Our Jewish people must and will endure forever. And to that we say, Amen.